All of the rivers in Nepal are prone to flooding. In western Nepal, in the Karnali Basin, over the past 7 years, there have been 3 major floods. The most recent of those, in August 2014, was the largest on record. Globally and in Nepal, there's an effort to reduce disaster-related impacts and to build resilience. But what does that mean?
In answering that question, let me, recall an experience that we had. We brought all these local partners together, discussing climate change, uncertainty, and how to go about planning and all that. So we mentioned the word resilience, and they said, "What's the Nepali word?" That means, well, in Nepali we said, the ability to get back to your original state. That's what it is. That's what, at least, we explained it to them, and then they sort of kept thinking for a while, and they said, going back to the original state means going to the state that we are currently in. That means we have no roads, we have no electricity, we have no water, we have no health, we have no this, we have no this, we have no this. So does resilience mean going back to this, state of having nothing? Is that resilience? At that point, he said no.
So much of the focus in the Karnali Basin has been about rebuilding infrastructure, but resilience is about much more than just building back infrastructure. It's about people, their needs, and the legal and cultural norms that enable them to thrive. It includes strengthening all aspects of the disaster management cycle: risk reduction, response, and recovery. In each of these elements, we need to consider how to build local capacity and how to build policy incentives that enable action. Ultimately, the goal is to better position Nepal to handle all future disasters.
A key element of resilience is learning, and in particular learning from past disasters. ISET International, ISET-Nepal, Practical Action, and the Zurich Flood Resilience Program traveled together to the Karnali Basin to talk with key stakeholders involved in the flood and understand what they learned. This report captures a number of key learnings. Among those, for example, is the early warning system. It started in about 2009 by Practical Action working with local communities. It was without question a success in the 2014 floods. Everyone we talked to said it saved lives. However, it also failed. It didn't work perfectly, in part because it's dependent on a single person at a single gauge with a phone calling people downstream. And in both of the cases that we looked at on both river systems, there were times when the gauge readers could not access the gauges, and in both cases their cell phones were unworkable for some period of the flood event. Clearly, there are inexpensive, simple ways of strengthening the system that would provide substantial improvement for the people on the ground. By identifying these and similar other lessons and sharing them with the global community, we aim to help other areas and regions bypass what can be an otherwise steep learning curve.